Hello there. Thanks so much for joining us for the Long Comics Book Club, a bi-weekly podcast about long comics, also known as manga and graphic novels. My name is Shane, and I'm the older brother. I'm joined by Spence, the younger brother. How's it going, Spence? You're coming off your biggest table event ever.
Yes, yes, we are. Yeah, I don't know if we're dating when we're doing this or anything like that, but this weekend just got back from the Vancouver Toy and Comic Shop, which is or Toy and Comic Show, which is this big toy and comic show at the PNE Forum. For people not in Vancouver, that's just like a really big arena that fits like 400. It has 400 tables, so huge amount of dealers and stuff.
That's a lot of, and Spencer, for those who are not familiar, was one of said tables because he is the owner and proprietor of Vesperia Manga and Comics in Vancouver, British Columbia. We'll get more into that in a bit. But are you tired? Do you feel rejuvenated? How are you holding up after that
I
400
am
table show?
I am tired. I will be honest with you. It's I've done a couple of like smaller comic events, and those have always been one day, but like 2 days really takes that up out of you. The way we had our table set up, like, was like I couldn't like sit behind it because we had so much stuff piled up, so I had to be like standing up the entire day. It was,
Mm.
but yeah, no, it was good. It was great to see people. It was all that stuff was good.
Really good during it, but now you're needing it'll be
Yes.
maybe a more low key kind of podcast. So
Yeah, it's fine.
it's all good. But thanks so much for listening along. If you're new to the show, glad to have you with us. For the first half of the show, we'll be talking about the long comic we read over the past 2 weeks. Today, that is Superman Red Sun. That is a story by Mark Millar. Oh,
Mark Millar, for the record.
Mark Millar. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Mark Millar is a different guy. Is Mike Miller? I feel like Mike Miller is
Matt
a different.
Mac Miller is a rapper.
Well, Mac Miller is a RIP.
Yes. And he was
But
also the drummer of the Sheds, a small independent rock band from California that had a song in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
there you go. Oh, my mistake. I was thinking about wait, the Sheds had a song in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was like their height of their yeah,
Oh, I
accomplishment.
had no idea.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Also, if you're confused why we're talking about this, we personally knew them.
that's true. Sorry, Mark Miller is a member of the House of Commons. I was That's legitimately why I thought of the name as I was thinking of Mark Miller, the Canadian politician.
Okay.
Yeah, very different. Mark Millar. Okay,
Yeah.
wow. We are going off the rails already on this one. Okay, winding it back. So today we are talking about Superman Red Sun. That is the writer, Mark Millar. And then we also do have Dave Johnson with Andrew Robinson, Killian Plunkett with Walden Wong, and as our artists. And we have Paul Mounts as our colorist, Ken Lopez, the letterer, and Dave Johnson again is the original covers painter. Lots of people involved with this story. We'll be giving our reactions, takeaways, discussion points, book club things. And for the second part of the show, we'll be chatting about some of the other visual media we've consumed recently. To make sure you avoid spoilers, we'll also include time codes in the episode description. Of course, we'll then end the show with Spence introducing the long comic for the next podcast, which will be coming out on April 26th. To be notified of when the podcast is out, you can follow our Blue Sky or Instagram at Long Comics Book Club. And on that page, you can also find a link to our Discord to join in the conversation. We'll also have all these links on our link tree. And of course, one of those links is to VesperiaComics.com because Spence, as previously discussed, is the owner and proprietor of Vesperia Comics, which is both an online store and physically located at 1935 West Broadway in Vancouver, British Columbia, and was recently at the Vancouver Comic and Toy Show. And Spence, any updates from
Yes.
the shop?
Do we have an update? Because we have Adam Kubert is coming to do a signing So if you don't know who Adam Kubert is, he is an artist, second generation artist actually. His dad was also a very accomplished Marvel artist, and he's most notably done his work on Wolverine and the X-Men back in the 90s. Yeah, like Wolverine, yeah, like and he's done a ton of great work, and we're super glad we've got him coming in. He will be coming in on June 14th from noon till 1:30, doing a signing there. And it's three free signatures for everyone to come who comes in. If you don't have books, if you are a fan of his but don't have books of his, we'll have some of his work as well, selling some of his work, and yeah, just super looking forward to doing it.
That's amazing. Are you going to have some sort of queue or something set up for outside? How are you going to manage the line?
That's the question, because like the line might be going out the door, so that's probably just what it'll be. We'll have a line literally snaking out the door.
There you go.
Yeah,
Maybe set
we're
up some signs or something outside to help guide that a little bit.
yeah, like we were planning out where to put the table and stuff today. It's gonna be great.
Super exciting. And
Yeah,
I mean, I always leave the decision of these book club books to you, but uh maybe we'll keep this in
yep,
mind for the next graphic novel coming
yep.
up in a few weeks.
Yes, yeah. Also, I don't actually don't even know if this is going, but like, do you remember Ultimate X-Men from back when we were kids?
Mm, actually, I do.
Yes, because that
I
was
don't
like
remember the
our
plot, but I know
yeah,
it.
yeah, no, but like because that was like the X-Men book we read the most as kids, the two of us.
There you
And
go.
he was the artist for the first like 30 issues of that.
Do you still have yours?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
We always had them in graphic novel form, not in like single issue,
Hmm.
but yeah.
Are you gonna get him to sign some
Yeah.
of
Oh
your?
yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna take advantage of my three
of
free
your,
signatures. Thank you very
as you
much.
should. Very exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of graphic novels, long comics, let's just jump into talking about this week's long comic, Superman Red Sun. So for those that haven't read the book yet, but want to avoid spoilers, this is your time to look at the time codes and jump ahead. But if you haven't read the book and want to listen anyways, that's also excellent, and maybe this conversation will help you decide if it's worth picking up. Suspense, kicking us off. Why did you choose Superman Red Sun for a long comic?
Um, the simple answer is I think it's very, very good. I think it's legitimately one of the best comics I've ever read. Reading the second time did not change my opinion. If anything, it made it more like I agreed with myself more. But also Mark Millar is like one of the most of an era like names in comics. Like he was really like the man of the early 2000s, and I think this is far and away his best work. But he also did like Civil Wars for some reason, a comic we bring up all the time. He did that. He did Kick-Ass, which got into a movie. He did Wanted, which also got made into a movie. He did a ton of stuff like that. Yeah,
This
Jupiter
also
Ascending,
got made into a movie, eh?
an animated one, yeah.
Yes. Fair
But yeah, but
minded.
like DC will do that. Like most of their big, like this DC will make most of their like well-contained storylines get made into movies. So that's not that surprising based on how popular and successful this one has been.
Certainly makes sense. Well, I can certainly see why you selected it because it is great. It is also, as you mentioned, a
Uh,
self-contained story, and that was something that we had discussed before, that can be trickier when it comes to graphic novels. A lot of superhero graphic novels, especially, often require you to sort of understand context uh, and characters. This one does a pretty great job of not requiring that. I think even
yeah,
if you go in completely blind without knowing the characters, you're not going to be missing too much.
yeah. Think you need to know who Superman and Lex Luthor are historically, but like that feels like a low bar to clear.
Yeah, and to what degree, I don't know to what degree you even need to, because
I guess it just you get a much more interesting getting the dichotomy of the two of them in this version. than if you don't know, if you had no idea who they were, it would just be less impactful.
That's what I mean. I think the impact would still be there. I think that there is more that you can get out of it if you're familiar with who the Green Lanterns are, if you're familiar with who Brainiac is, if you're familiar with these characters
You know,
previously, it'll be interesting. But
yeah, because that's another fun thing. Even if you like every single character who has like even one line is a reference to someone in DC.
interesting.
Like
Okay.
there's loads. Like you notice the Green Lanterns, like yeah, it's all the Green Lanterns when the Green Lanterns show up. But like, did you notice that Oliver Queen was one of the like Green Arrow was one of the reporters, and
Yeah.
like Dr. Silva, the Captain Marvel Shazam's number one villain, is the guy who is in charge of fireworks at the
Oh,
it's a lot of little stuff like that.
interesting. Okay, so it's almost like Easter
Oh
eggy.
yeah, yeah. But like 100% not important for the like if you missed it, you wouldn't even know you missed anything.
Yeah, which I think is very important and very different than what a lot of pop culture referencey stuff does right now, which is like, look at this, look at you recognize this, you know this person, you love this hero, look at this, look at this. Whereas, as you just named Dr. Silva, I don't know who that was, but the fact that I didn't and still don't didn't matter, didn't
Yeah.
take away from it at all. And yeah, what a journey. A lot of really interesting pieces in this. Um, so I have come up with this super fun acronym that I'm going to use to start guiding our book club discussions because I'm a
Okay.
big fan of acronyms. Um, and this one is both cringe, but also maybe we don't have to think about it as the cringe direction, which is that we're going to tip our cap to these books. Tip cap.
Dip
Uh,
cap.
tip cap. TIPCAP. So we're gonna tip our cap to this graphic novel, to our book club, and not in like a milady kind of tip cap, or in like a gentlemanly.
Yeah, it's not tipping a fedora.
Yeah, the cap we are choosing is not of the fedora variety. But yeah, tip cap starts out with just to break down this acronym because I don't know, I thought it was fun to come up with an acronym for a book club.
Yeah, shoot.
We're going to talk about the title, the initial impact, the plot, the characters, the art, and the point of the story. Look at that.
Okay.
Those are
Yeah.
that's actually pretty good.
Yeah,
Doesn't
that works
doesn't
pretty
feel
well.
shoehorned super hard, and it gives us a little bit of structure for discussion. So kicking it off is talking about the title, which I always like to talk about because I think that that's such an important selling feature and also immediately sort of sets the tone. And wow, what a knock it out of the park kind of title.
Yeah.
Superman Red Sun. Very clever, very short, very good wordplay.
Yep.
Uh,
Layered.
Layered as well. Yeah. So Red Sun, the obvious it's spelt for those that are not for those that might be hearing of this the first time, it is spelled S-O-N. That is meant to refer to Superman as a Soviet operative because the story is about Superman landing in Soviet Ukraine in the 1930s. And so instead of landing in good old Kansas in the US of A, he becomes Soviet weapon slash superstar during the Cold War, and therefore heavily influences
Yes. The
uh,
world is slightly different having Superman.
slightly the
Yeah.
understatement of the century. And so that's sort of the angle of the book is what would happen if Superman was a Soviet asset, and how would that have changed the course of history and in not even just even in DC, but just sort of like the no, I guess it is superhero reliant, but
Yeah,
how would
but because like it's very much the DC universe, like the DC world they're in. Like
yeah, so
Paradise
how would it
Island
have
and Wonder Woman and
changed?
stuff are still there.
That's true. So how would it have changed the DC world
Yeah,
if Superman was Soviet, which is a
yeah.
very cool angle to take. But
And then also it's less noticed. Like one of the big things about it is it was originally a three-issue miniseries, but like thick ones, and each of them takes place over a different. Like there's like a 20-year gap between each story, so it's a huge,
that's true.
yeah, it's a huge epic story spanning like 50
Hmm.
years.
I mean, technically it spans thousands of years, but
Yes, true.
we'll we'll
Because
get to
that's
the
another to the layers of Red Sun.
yeah, we'll get to the plot of that. I mean, I guess we'll touch on that now. Yeah, so the reason that it's very clever. So Red Sun at its very base layer is saying Red Sun is in communist Superman, son of communism. But what is the Red Sun, especially I understand it now in this context, but what is the Red Sun in relation to Superman spelled S-U-N?
Yes, because this is a classic thing is that Superman loses his powers when he's under the radiation of a red sun. So but then also for for this story, it's that this Superman actually isn't an alien. This Superman came from the future where the Earth's sun has turned red and then going back in time. But then also like cool levels of thing like going into the whole story with I don't know if you want to like we're gonna spoil everything, but like because this Superman is actually the L, so Kal-El, the classic name of Superman. The L stands for Luther. So he's the far tens of thousands of years in the future is the descendant of Lex Luthor sent back into the past.
Mm, making it a perfect circle,
Exactly.
which I didn't see coming. I
No.
absolutely, which I don't think is what I expected out of this to have really both. I mean, we're kind of talking about our initial impact, initial thoughts on the book, but then moving into plot, I think that I really like how this is a really clearly thought out, developed story that has a great plot that progresses logically. There's good twists in there, there's unexpected pieces. I didn't really think that graphic novels did surprise. I mean, I guess it makes sense that there's surprises and plot twists, but I wouldn't think that there was ones in here that I didn't really see coming, which I thought was great. Like the
Yeah.
fact that Brainiac was trying to manipulate Superman the whole time, and that it is a time travel thing at the very end. So it is all cyclical and self-contained as well. I thought that it was really interesting and well paced as well. I think
Yeah.
what you're talking about is also really interesting, how it is that there is those gaps, those decades between each of the stories. That it is really this epic.
Yeah. And I guess going back into my initial impacts, I would think for one of the things I find the most interesting about this story is this isn't a story about an evil Superman. Is that Superman's not evil. Superman is exactly the same level of morality that he is in the normal DC comics. He just has a different standard of belief system where he began it all from.
Hmm.
And on the same level, Lex Luthor is not a good guy, not anywhere close to a good guy. Lex Luthor is just as evil as he's always been, but in this case, like he's the man we need for the job.
Hmm. Yeah, super interesting. Um, Yeah, that certainly starts to move in the character direction as well. Um, just to touch a little bit on why I think it's also great, just in terms of the start of it, that it really helps set the scene right away early on, that it explains this is how the world is different. You get to meet all your Soviet Superman, you get to meet your Lex Luthor, you get to meet your Lois Luthor, which not so sure about that part, but um the and then you get Superman narrates it, which I think is really interesting. Because he's the only character I think we ever get to hear like internal monologue of.
Yes, yes, I do believe that is correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so which makes it really interesting because it does really frame him. He's the protagonist then. Um, but like you're saying, he's not evil. Um, he's certainly something of an anti-hero though for sure. Because he
yeah.
I don't,
Well, I go to another level. He's an anti-villain.
yeah, I was gonna say he's not even an anti-hero because you're not really cheered for him either.
Yeah,
Which
he's
does really position you in an interesting place that you're not really cheering for either side. You're just kind of objectively watching these two.
yeah.
Um, but it raises a lot of interesting questions then of like who's right? Are either of them right? It's makes it a great read. Super interesting. I mean, not much more to say about that
Yeah.
other than like I'm staring at the cover and really thinking, man, what a what a complicated and nuanced take on totalitarianism and what would happen if you did live in a dictatorship.
Yeah. But
Um,
like a benevolent dictatorship, though, is what makes it so much more interesting. But then that's the whole
mhm.
thing. It's like, why not put the world in it? Superman can make the world a like a little perfect utopia if he wants to, but like, why not put the whole world in a bottle then?
Mhm. Yeah. And quickly touching that. So there is a world in a bottle in the book. I didn't understand that part.
Yeah,
That's the part that went over my
okay, I
head.
guess once again we're going into like slightly more comic references. So that's what Brainiac does in this as well as in the comic books. He like takes alien civilizations and
Hmm.
like slips them into bottles to like preserve them as like samples of them.
Hmm.
Famously in the comics, there's a thing called like the bottled city of Kandor, which is a Kryptonian one.
Hmm.
But yeah, but in this one he does it to Stalingrad.
Got it. Okay. That's what I mean, that's what I understood during the
Yeah, well,
plot is
I
that
guess it's the kind of
Brainiac
thing
did this,
you can
but
kind of pick that up from context clues, but like once again, that's a direct reference to.
yeah, it's just that the way it's put in there, it doesn't make sense if you don't know that Brainiac puts things into bottles.
Yeah,
It's just
that's
like all
true.
of a sudden there's a small city and they're saying you meant to do it to Moscow, but you missed, and then I didn't know who they were talking about, and then I was a little bit lost, but
Yeah,
um yeah, certainly brings it back to the what you were referring to, how that's how Lex sort of defeats Superman is by pointing out that he's trying to put the whole world into a bottle. He's just trying to turn the world into something that he gets to control, that he makes all the decisions about,
yeah,
and that he's no better than Brainiac, which is, I guess, a good way to beat the indestructible,
yeah.
undefeatable man.
Beat him with like a dozen words.
Yeah, by playing into his morality.
Yeah.
Uh, because moving into characters, this is a Superman story. And what a great arc. What a great
Oh
character.
yeah.
What a yeah, really fantastic. Much deeper analysis of Superman than I think I can't imagine you normally get much to
No,
Superman. Superman, I
no.
think, is infamously not an interesting character. Uh,
Yes, I feel the modern era has done a better job of doing that, but from like circa like 1985 to 2010, Superman was just not in a, like Superman comics were just bad. Like it just
mhm,
they did not know what to do with him.
mhm. Well, they're important and they're classic,
Oh
but
yeah, well that's
he's
why I say 85 to 2010 because
yeah.
it's like classic Superman is like the most important superhero ever and he's huge, but like come the 80s and like the death of Superman and all that, they just did not know how to handle Superman.
That's oh yeah, I forgot he's died a bunch. Um, Interesting.
Except he
So,
didn't
but
die, it was a healing coma.
oh
It was
God.
so bad. It was yeah. There's an entire honestly, it might be interesting to do the death of Superman just to be like, here's all the ways it went wrong, but we're a far way away from that.
Oh my. Uh, but this is a super great Superman.
Yeah.
Like it's you were saying, he's this complicated character because especially that's one of the things that's initial is that you sort of assume that he's being set up as the villain, but then one of the first action scenes we get is Luthor directing a Soviet satellite to hit the city of Metropolis, and then Superman stops it. And
Yeah.
so, even though he has been introduced as the what you would have assumed to be the villain character, he then does the hero thing. So you're it's a great way to introduce and to start off this book because it immediately sets out, yes, he is Soviet, however, he is also still his main thing is that he wants to save people. That's his central moral clause has not changed.
Yeah. And he throughout the entire story adamantly refuses to ever kill anyone.
Interesting. I didn't even register that.
Yeah.
Does he not kill one of the Green Lanterns? I know he
Nope.
steals all their rings.
He steals all the rings and stuff, and then just leaves them behind. And like, I'll be back in a couple of hours.
Oh,
Yeah, and
I didn't even
then
register
yeah, but
that.
then he does the whole like he does the whole mind control thing, and like Batman dies, but Batman
That
kills himself
was,
rather than turn into one of the mind control people.
yeah. I wasn't sure I fully followed the mind control robot thing. I assume that
Yeah,
was Brainiac somehow had.
somehow Superman's got mind control brainiac powers that can make you into like a happy subservient person who will just
Yeah.
yeah
I mean, it's a convenient solution
yeah
to what they need to do. It serves its purpose. Superman is the guy that can read books super fast, and therefore he's brilliant. And I guess can mind control devices.
yeah sure
Yeah, I mean, we just kind of take it in stride.
yeah
But he, yeah, he really does have an arc because he is um a lot of interesting parts to it where he just wants to save people, but then he accepts that in order to save people, he has to be the president. And then he's sort of reflecting, should I have done this in the first place? Should I have been so involved, or should I just have let humanity do its own thing? Then he uh, this, is pushed into a position where he has to feel like he has to sort of take over.
yeah yeah
And then,
because I guess that's the big plot the arc of the story outside of Superman is that when Superman is part of the thing, like communism basically takes over the world.
mhm,
That until like literally everywhere in the world except the United States, which is then starts to like literally just completely fall apart until Lex Luthor becomes president and then manages to flip it on its head. And that causes Superman to realize the entire world won't be Soviet, like won't become communist unless I do something about it. Hence
mhm.
leading to the climax.
Yeah. Also, it's America, and I think it's Chile. There's
Yeah, but
two.
here's the thing. They say that in the 80s, so this is never confirmed, but I always assume that Chile falls to communism at some point between the 80s and the 2000s.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought it
There's
was
absolutely no this is 100% conjecture on my part. I don't know. It's just always I felt the natural progression.
God. Yeah, why that specific area? That's funny.
Yeah.
But then he has this great ending where he saves the world again, and Luther thinks he's blown up and killed by Brainiac's six black holes in space. But no, he just keeps on
Yeah.
living. It's just that he realizes he doesn't have to intervene and that
Yep.
humanity can flourish without his omnipresence.
Yeah. And then of
Um,
course the fun part of that, he comes back, puts some glasses on, and pretends to be a reporter.
yeah, which is perfect. It's
Yeah.
the yeah, wonderful little great arc to Superman. None of the other characters really have arcs. Even Luthor doesn't.
No.
He's just
Yeah, but then that's what makes it so interesting, is Luthor is still the egomaniacal supervillain he's always been, but
Mhm.
now like a greater threat who also happens to be like way more morally just than him. You need Luthor to deal with it. And
Mhm.
once again, nothing Luthor does, like despite the fact he like rebuilds the economy into like this beautiful system and all that, and like fixes and like a country on the brink of civil war and all that, he does none of that for any altruistic means. He does that because that makes him better than Superman.
Mhm. Well, but then he continues doing it even after
Yeah.
Superman's gone, though. Do you think so? Then you're saying that that's likely because he just wanted to prove to Superman that he could do a better job.
Yeah, basically that's how I always took it. It's
Mhm.
like then they do the whole thing, like on his deathbed, despite he's lived for like 600 years and remade the human race into like a multi-solar system, super beings that have all that. He asks like, "What are you most proud of doing?" He's like, "I beat Superman." Huh?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean that is super interesting. So then thinking about this non-Red Sun world, if Superman didn't exist, would Lex Luthor like if Lex Luthor won and beat Superman in the real DC universe, would he do good things or is it just this universe specific?
That is actually a question that gets brought up a lot uh in DC in general.
Hmm,
Like
really?
yeah, like there's another big a story of graphic novel we will 100% be doing at some point is one called All Star Superman.
Hmm.
And that's a big question about that. Is the story of that one is basically Superman's dying of like super like absorbs too much solar radiation and starts dying of cancer. And it's like about like what world will he pass on um
Hmm.
when it's all over.
Oof. Heavy.
Yeah,
Interesting.
heavy but also really interesting. And it's like it's a really interesting take on Superman, that one. So I don't know,
Hmm.
probably not for a while, but I'm sure we'll do it at some point.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize I don't really know too much about superhero stuff anymore. I
That,
mean,
that's
hence the point of this book club, but I didn't realize Lex Luthor was this smart. I thought he was just like evil rich guy.
Yeah. Well, there's the classic like thing in DC universe that like Mr. Terrific is the third smartest man in the DC universe, and they'll never tell you who's number one because it's either Lex Luthor or Batman, and they're not going to ever explain which one of them is supposed to be smarter.
Oh, sorry, who's Mr. Terrific?
He's another superhero. He is
Gotcha.
if you've watched the trailer for the new Superman movie, he's the guy with the black guy with the mask. Okay, yeah,
I have not. Um,
don't worry about it.
there, okay, fair enough. Interesting. Batman or Lex Luthor?
Yep, those are the two that generally always considered. There's the two smartest people. Who knows which one's actually
Oh.
smarter?
Wow, because in this one, it would clearly be Lex Luthor.
Yeah, Batman's.
But
I kind of love Batman in this though. Like I love his little hat.
yeah, his little Russian ear flap hat. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought that was a bit goofy, but that's fine. I thought he was interesting in it. I thought it certainly, yeah, I thought it was actually very great to have him there because I was kind of cheering for Superman. And I was like, isn't this like a great society? Why do you want to mess it up? But I mean, that's like the whole free will conversation.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, whether I don't know how intense I want to get into politics, but
yeah,
I mean, I also think that part of it is because realistically, we're never gonna there you cannot have like a benevolent dictatorship. That doesn't there's
yeah.
no way that can realistically exist.
Well, that we're getting once again we're getting into very weird, yeah, political theory and all that, and like even if there was a benevolent dictatorship, which what some would argue have happened in the past, the problem then becomes succession, but then Superman can't die, so then there's no worry about succession. So
Right.
yeah,
So therefore they get this is a special exception to the
yeah,
rule.
exactly.
Yeah, that I mean, so hypothetically,
But then of course
um,
is that the destruction of free will worth all that? Yeah.
yeah, uh, tricky question. Is it worth it? Yeah, loaded questions for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's part of what makes this super interesting, is it's essentially showing the potential, especially when Lex takes over and there's what's it called? No, it's not. Is it Lutheranism?
I think
Yeah,
they call it
they call
Lutheranism.
it Lutheranism, which is pretty funny. Um, but it's the fact that Lutheranism takes over and that leads to like the success and growth of humanity.
Yeah.
But I guess he's democratically elected each time, allegedly, except that he keeps getting above 100% of the vote.
Yeah, but
Uh,
also like if you based on what America was like before Lex Luthor and then after Lex Luthor in the story, that's not that surprising.
yeah, it tracks. It makes sense. Yeah. So I guess if he's democratically elected, even though
Yeah.
he's only supposed to serve 2 terms, but maybe when he's changing the entire world to operate at an
Yeah.
extra level, they'll make some exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
But
Also, fun fact, Lex Luthor was nominated to president in the normal DC universe at one point.
there you go. But yeah, I mean, under Lutheranism, I'd be on board. It sounded great. It
Yeah.
seemed like everyone was living their best lives and their lives were 6 times longer and everyone was happy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess if it's some sort of unusually long rule under Lex Luthor, I'd be on board. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be okay with Superman's because of the threat of the brain thing.
That's the thing. Yeah. Like once again, like Superman, we were saying mentioning with the Batman versus Superman thing. It's like
Mhm.
when you learn, then he's like he's taken all the Batman followers and like effectively lobotomized them, and it's like that's not cool.
That's not a cool thing to do. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Um, Wonder Woman's also in the story. She's interesting. She serves a good purpose.
yeah,
Certainly she's great for really showing the flaws in Superman as well. I think that she's another really good way to sort of pronounce them.
yeah,
especially that he makes her break her own lasso, which therefore, I guess her lasso is part of her immortality, is what I learned.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not entirely sure on the mechanics of that one, but yeah, it screws her up. And then she like gets better a little bit later, but
Hmm.
still, it's
But
still like,
nevertheless,
yeah,
yeah, really shows Superman's selfishness. And yeah, I thought that she was also a really strong character in there as well. I also thought that it was great having her and the other Paradise Islanders and the Green Lanterns all coming out to stop Superman, and you assume it's going to be this big battle, and it's what, like 4 pages.
yeah, Superman
Uh,
just like, yeah,
just wins
doesn't
right
even
away,
like they
which is
barely even slow them down. The Green Lanterns do their whole thing, and
yeah.
I love the idea that like yeah the Green Lantern they like the American government found the crashed Green Lantern and like had to built up their super soldiers with just a bunch of Green Lanterns, and I think that was great.
Especially that they're then immediately defeated.
Yeah,
Uh, because I think it just sort of drives the point home, like how powerful Superman is in this universe.
yeah,
That he's just undefeatable, that you just cannot beat Superman. And so it's not like they were trying to overstate it earlier when Lex just couldn't defeat him. It's like, no, there's a reason he's unstoppable.
yeah,
And that it really is, therefore, it has to be Superman by his own volition to give up power. Uh, which again makes this a great story, really. And yeah, even though none of the other characters really have arcs to the same degree, I mean, Wonder Woman kind of has her arc where she
yeah,
learns, where she sort of has that character growth and realizes the
yeah. Well,
flaws with Superman.
yeah, because she's initially super on board with the whole Superman thing, but
Hmm.
then yeah, after learning what she would make him do, it's just yeah, she joins up with Lex Luthor.
Yeah. So I guess it's Wonder Woman and Superman have their arcs, and then everyone else sort of helps support their growth and their the storyline, which is completely fine because it's a great storyline. So that's the main thing. And
Yeah.
having one knock it out of the park character arc, I think, is enough.
Yeah,
So
it's just one like you can only do so much in one graphic novel.
it's true. You can only do so much with one graphic novel. Um, but moving into just talking about the art, I think this is my favorite kind of comic graphic novel art. I think that this is that perfectly sweet spot between it's not the old like golden silver age stuff. It's not this new like seeing all their wrinkles and pores and sweat. It's just right in the middle where
Yeah.
where it looks great. It looks like a comic. There's some really great artsy shots in there. There's some great shadows and I also think that I'm sure that part of this is also influenced by this is the art style I'm feel like we grew up with because
Yeah,
this is
basically.
very much what I remember comics looking like.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everyone has their different preferences for art style. This is one of my favorites. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there is some really unique and creative shots in here as well. It's not just same framing every time. There's different silhouettes and different shaped sized boxes, and they're not always boxes. And um, yeah, it just looks great.
Yeah.
Uh, I also think even just the cover is really cool. I like that there's like the folds in the poster, so it
Yeah.
almost looks
And
like your comics folded.
yeah, but
But
yeah, and then with the whole 19 so yeah, Soviet Union propaganda poster
yeah,
style
the
to it.
propaganda posters are great. I'm definitely going to be throwing those on the Instagram because those are awesome. Those are
Yeah.
super cool, super clever. I love the hammer and sickle in place of the S on his chest. That's so on point. And yeah, great character design. And they have some really cool art at the back of this graphic novel that just shows some of the characters' design pieces. And so cool
Yeah.
to even just see them outlined in that way as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Like, did you read some of them? Because like I remember the one of them's the guy arguing about how he had to fight to get the hat on Batman.
oh no, I missed that. That's
People said the hat was like editorial or whatever. It was like that hat looks dumb. He was like, no, I want the hat.
I want the hat. That's so funny. Well, good on him for fighting for it.
Yeah.
You got to fight for what you believe in. Um, so all told, I also think that this is it's a great plot, it's a great character development, and I also think there is a point to this story. I think there is an actual thematic value to reading this. Because, like we've been talking about, it is a commentary on totalitarianism, a commentary on the surrender of free will. Is there actual like circumstances where uh, it could be okay? um, and just sort of, I guess it's also like the nurture versus nature as well, adding into that discussion as well.
Yeah. Which is actually interesting when you bring up that part, because honestly, the comic almost implies that it is nature rather than nurture, because Superman's still the
Hmm.
same, even with. But yeah, but like any good story, however, it doesn't really necessarily give you a definitive answer to that.
Hmm. That's true. I mean, but also, to be fair, it does seem like he just gets the Ukrainian equivalent of the Kents.
Yeah,
So,
basically, but still.
but still, yeah, I mean, he's way more involved with the immediate higher ups in Soviet Russia with like Stalin and
Yeah,
um, his son as well. So he, I guess, certainly would have been, you would presume, more politically influenced, and he is, but
yeah.
he did not subscribe to the violence. As you noted, he doesn't kill anyone, uh, which is really interesting. I hadn't even sort of registered that, but again, I guess that sticks with Superman's theme as well. Um, or does he normally kill people? No,
No, not at all.
no.
Like,
Okay.
yeah. Once what more further readings, if we ever do whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which we probably will do at some point,
Hmm.
that's another big one about that question.
Hmm. Something to potentially look forward to.
Yeah.
Is there any themes in there that you really picked up on, or that you think really solidifies this as some sort of commentary in your mind as well?
I think we've kind of covered most of them with like, yeah,
Hmm.
nature versus nurture, totalitarianism, free will. Yeah, like heavy stuff for a comic book, but not,
Hmm.
yeah.
It's also not glossing, it's not saying communism is great by any means.
No. But also, it's
Uh,
also not being like communism is the ruining force of everything. It actually takes a rather middle of the road opinion towards that.
I think that's sort of what it does with every political structure, which is
Yeah,
interesting
true.
because
Yeah,
it shows communism doesn't work. He's talking about all these families that are starving in line, but then when Superman's running communism, it's actually pretty great. Everyone's doing okay. But then also same with capitalism, that it's terrible in America until Lex Luthor's running it, and then capitalism
yeah,
is great.
yeah.
So,
So I guess if we're picking, it certainly applies to the great man theory of history.
hmm, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's
But I guess that's kind of a natural part of superhero stories, so I don't know if we need to read too much more into that.
yeah, I certainly do. I mean, I'm sure that's an issue that comes up a lot, but especially with having a younger daughter, there's a disappointing lack of strong female figures in the comic universe when it comes to these big names, especially thinking about like the Avengers has technically just Black Widow, but Scarlet Witch they try and get in there in like the second string as well.
Yeah, it's
And
like the main seven in the DC of the DC Justice League has one woman in it.
yeah, which is super frustrating. So
Yeah,
that's why I appreciated in this Wonder Woman having a strong secondary role, and again that she sort of got the secondary arc. So yes, the great man theory, but appreciating having Wonder Woman in there to
yeah.
provide a powerful female presence as well. And again, I don't know what Lois Luthor was doing there. She,
I don't know. I think she's supposed to give us like a more I know we're never directly given her thoughts, but I do think she's supposed to be much more of a like kind of a point of view character for seeing large like what life's like on the ground, but especially she's there to show like, oh yeah, Lex Luthor does suck.
mhm.
Like he's not a good man. And like you
No,
can really see that through Lewis Lois Luthor's. Um
true.
yeah.
But then you're also like, why is she putting up with him? Like that part's 100% unclear.
Yeah, that's true.
Like why are you putting yourself through this? But
Yeah. Yeah, the
um,
1940s. No fault divorce didn't exist yet.
Oh, I mean, there you go. That could be a legitimate reason why she stuck with him the next 600 years as he extended human life.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Who's to say?
Maybe after
Less
killing
clear on
Superman,
that.
he's appeared to have mellowed out a little bit. So,
Yeah, or so he thinks.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, great graphic novel. Super fun to read. Really, really interesting. If you're listening along and you haven't read it, this is me telling you, go read Superman Red Sun.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think of everything we've done so far, this would be my pick for the favorite thing I've done. We've written,
hmm.
including
Yeah.
graphic novels and manga.
Wow. Big statements.
Yep. Hey,
Yeah.
ma ma
That's what we're
make them
here to
count.
do sometimes. Yeah,
Yep.
making those bold statements where it counts. Anything you want to throw in here at the end as we wrap up discussion of Superman Red Sun?
No, I think we covered most of the like we feel like we've talked like much more about this one than we've really gone deep into this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to go deep into as well. I also appreciated that we were really able to, I think it also makes a lot more sense discussion wise than maybe when we went deep into Goodbye Eri, because that one went off the rails a bit. But also, to
Yeah,
be
well,
fair, it's because Goodbye
we
Eri goes off the rails.
yeah, it was. I think I picked a good one to start with from like interesting stuff to talk about. Maybe not the best one for like easing us into this format.
That's true, but it was fun nonetheless, and it was a
Oh
fun
yeah,
to get me excited for future reads. But this is a great way to um yeah, talk about graphic novels and really see what kind of things can be done in the space as well. Uh,
yeah,
and again, it's also kind of interesting because it's the kind of thing that, I mean, it benefits from Superman and Lex Luthor having being pre-existing characters, but they could have not been using giant iconic name characters, and it would still be just as interesting because
yeah.
you still got that same interesting concept.
Okay,
Uh,
well, actually, you know what? I just had one thing to think about to talk about,
Go
which
for it.
is Mark. Which I don't know. This might be kind of me talking to myself, but about Mark Millar, the writer. So
Hmm.
I mentioned that he's a big, huge part of the early 2000s. He did, yeah, Civil War. He did the Ultimates, which all became the like. Honestly, in terms of adaptation, he's probably, he's unquestionably the most important person of the last like 30 years. Most notably
Wow.
because he did the Ultimates, which became the basis for the MCU.
Hmm.
So like he was the guy who like when he made the Ultimates, which is like an alternate universe version of the Marvel universe, he based Nick Fury on Samuel L. Jackson,
Wow.
which
Mark
then became the one.
Millar.
Yeah. But then also this is vastly different than what he normally does. Like this is a very different from his he's normally much more cynical than this story. Much more like brutally violent.
This one's
So,
certainly still cynical to a point. I think you get a lot of cynicism coming from Lex Luthor, especially, but it's not
but
brutally violent, except for when that guy shoots Piotr shoots Batman's parents. But
yes.
uh, no, I mean when you talked about that, he also did Wanted and Kick-Ass. Yes, he
Yeah.
is also got that violent streak there. But
Yeah, and it's also like he I've never read it, but he did a comic called The Unfunnies, which is like often considered like the worst comic ever, like constantly ends up on like the worst comics ever written list, which I find hard to believe because that would mean Nemesis, another one he didn't, isn't the worst comic ever made, which is one I have read by him, and I do consider the worst comic I've ever read.
wow,
Nemesis is like
interesting.
Nemesis is like imagine if Batman was terrible, but they still did all the like you know how Batman has a tendency to be like, oh, how cool Batman is, and everything always works. Imagine that, but like an irredeemably terrible villain that the comic like still expect you to think is cool.
Oh
It's
no.
like impossible. It's so bad. Nemesis is an entire like, yeah,
You
it's
can't put up
bad.
with, okay.
I can't
So
put up.
some sort of edge lord that has
Yeah, it's
no,
yeah, it's the most edgelord comic like ever. It's so
it's
bad.
edge lord that is not a cool guy. Okay.
No.
So there you go. Avoid that, but
Yeah,
I guess Mark Millar has put together one of your favorite graphic novels and one of your most hated. So
that's yep.
kudos
That
to
would
him
be.
for covering the full
And
spectrum.
I like it. Like I like. I know some people find Wanted the comic book a little too edgy. I still find it enjoyable.
Interesting.
Uh, yeah. I know Ultimates gets bad eventually, but I liked Ultimate X-Men initially, which he did also did wrote. So
Wow.
yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah.
Way to go, Mark Millar. Covering a whole bunch of stuff. But
Yeah.
that's a wrap on Superman Red Sun. So then moving into our second section, what other kinds of content have you been enjoying this week? Movies, TV shows, games, books, things that have stood out to you.
Like it gets the big one is that new season of animes starting this season or starts this week.
Hmm.
So getting excited for the new stuff.
Therefore, a wrap up to the last
Yes.
season of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Which
wrapped up Solo Leveling, breaking records. Look at that.
yep.
Got
Number
on
one
board.
anime in the world.
Spence got on board just in time to watch our good friend. Oh, I'm gonna forget his name right away.
Song
Song Woo,
Songwoo.
uh, I think, but our good
Yeah.
friend Edgelord, cool guy,
He's
breaking
not
records,
yeah,
uh,
but
and wrapping up the season in a way that it's clearly a season wrap up, which I always appreciate when they do that.
yes.
Um,
And I have no doubt they'll make another season of it because it broke every record. So
yeah,
yeah.
it's probably set itself up for a number more seasons.
I think the webtoon is finished, so I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But what? So then, have you started watching? Is there? What are you watching? What are you most excited? I mean, I'm sure there's lots you could talk about. What? Name
Yeah.
one show. What are you most excited about for this new
Uh
anime season?
so I think the one I'm most excited for is called Kowloon Generic Romance.
Oh,
So it's this. So I've read the manga of it up till the point. Actually, not even caught up. I've read like six volumes of it, and it's this like super trippy kind of interesting romance story set in the backdrop. Do you know this? Do you know of Kowloon?
no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so Kowloon was this like air quotes neighborhood in Hong Kong that didn't have any laws. So there was no rule like wasn't like a lawless wasteland Mad Max. It was just more this just shot up like there was no rules on building. So like it was like this like super densely packed together 10,000 people lived in like a 6 block radius kind of thing with
Hmm.
like haphazard apartment buildings just coming up. And it was like this super, it doesn't exist anymore, which is part of the story because this story is like set in like a time out of time where Kowloon still exists, but like it could be set in any time period with like there's like science fiction technology and it's a really cool, really interesting story that yeah goes through some very interesting twists. So I'm
Hmm.
really glad to see it as an anime.
Cool. Something to check out.
Yeah.
On the new season of things is also a new season of Game Changer on Dropout
Yeah.
TV. Season
Yeah,
episode one. On
I
the
watched
time we're
that
recording,
episode.
dropped yesterday. Game Changer, the game show that changes every show, and it's always the how you win changes every every episode, and it's three comedians, and it's a hoot. It's hilarious. I'm not done the season premiere yet, but I'd say it's one of
Okay.
the all-time greats. I'm
Yeah,
about
I
halfway through
was
it.
so good. I watched it all in one sitting. It's like an hour and 10 minutes long
It
of
is, but it's so funny.
oh
It's
yeah.
great. The game show. It's an excellent concept. They always have great cast on there. You've watched a bunch of Game Changer now, Spence.
Yes.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
there any, if you had to choose one episode, one or two episodes, what are the ones you
Ooh,
think of?
what are
How
the
do you
best
get someone to
ones?
watch? I was thinking about this earlier, and while I let
Yeah.
you think of it, I'll hijack because I was certainly reflecting, and I'm a huge fan of the Sam Says.
Yeah, that was one of my first thoughts was go to. And which
Yeah,
is
so
doubly fun because this one's kind of a continuation of one of the Sam says.
there you go.
Yeah.
Wait, I haven't finished it yet, so no spoil.
No, it's
Uh,
no, because it's the same group that did the last Sam says.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those, so one of the game challenges is just literally a game of Sam Says, but with ridiculous
A
situations
game of
created to
Simon
try and.
says as the
Oh, that's
childhood.
right. That's
Yeah.
what it's called. Yeah, a game of Simon Says, but a very, very funny and very next level.
Yeah.
Which is why they've done it three times. Also, the game they did of Survivor is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
iconic.
That one they did twice.
Yeah. The first one I like. No, I like both the Survivor. I didn't love Battle Royale, but
Okay.
I
Because
like,
like the first one's like just dropping people into a survivor game, whereas the second one was more like defined and all that. And yeah,
yeah,
I think I liked it more when it was just throwing them in like some of the people have absolutely no idea what they're
I have
doing, and
no idea how to strategize in Survivor,
some of
and
them are
some of
like
them do.
hardcore survivor people.
Yeah, which is exactly how it should be, which is so funny to
Yeah.
watch then. But yeah, Game Changer's back, so that's something else to look forward to. I also have on my end, my other thing I'll mention is that I do have a follow-up to last podcast, which is that I've been playing Wario Land 3.
Oh,
After all
nice.
my hype and excitement around my discovery, around the virtual console, I've been enjoying Wario Land 3 and just going back through. And I think this game is so interesting.
Yeah.
It's so different than what I'm
Yeah.
used to with games now.
Which yeah, I guess to let everyone know, the big gimmick of Wario Land 3 is that it's a platformer where you can't die.
Yeah. And so your punishment for getting hurt or missing jumps or anything is just that it wastes time, which makes it so weird.
Yeah. And
But
then like more to the point, like all enemies, they like do something to Wario
mhm.
when you get hit by them. And then that becomes the whole it's almost more of a puzzle game than a pure platformer.
I was gonna say it's almost puzzle because I was actually having a hard time with it for a while. In one of the very early on, I was like, why is this? I feel like I was doing this as a child. Why is it harder now? And then I realized it's because I was able to avoid one of the enemies that had to hit me. And so I
Mm.
didn't know what it did to me because I was able to avoid it. Whereas a kid, I would have been hit by the zombie. And so I would have accidentally found out you can fall through floors. But as an adult, I was easily just dodging it. And I was like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. Um, which is very, very funny. It makes it a really interesting game to play, especially as someone that doesn't have a lot of free time. Getting punished by losing time is not my favorite thing in the world. But I love that the Virtual Console has a rewind option.
Oh yeah, true.
Better bet I use the heck out of the rewind option. Are you a rewind purist or do you use the rewind?
I generally don't, but also when playing through Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, you better believe I use that rewind because good God, that game,
Yeah, in
especially because
systems, you just
that,
gotta.
that's the first. I don't know how much you remember about playing Fire Emblem, but that one, it's an old Fire Emblem game where they don't have battle. They like don't when you go to attack an enemy, they don't tell you how much damage you're going to do or how much damage they're going to do.
Oh no.
You have to math it out yourself by like going over them and like picking.
God.
So
Yeah, that's a lot
yeah,
of work. No thanks. Yeah, so there you go. So the rewind function, it does allow you to go back in time and go back to a within like the last 30 seconds or something. So if you get hit or if you make a bad fight decision in Fire Emblem, you can go back and avoid that happening. And
yeah,
a great example of that is like the first mini boss in Wario Land. If you get hit once, you turn into a spring and you zoop out of the mini boss fight, and you have to take another minute to get back to it.
yeah. I'm reasonably certain literally every boss in Wario Land is like that.
I am going to be using rewind on all of them.
Yeah, every
So
single boss is one hit. You got to redo the boss fight.
that is so irritating.
Well, it's like, how else are they supposed to implement it, kind of thing?
It's to know 100%. And as a kid, I'm sure it's fun and like satisfying to overcome. As someone that only has like 20 minutes to play a game, I don't want to have to keep on going back because you keep turning me to a spring and knocking me out of the screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting game because of that, as well as the fact that it's getting used to something that has a control stick plus two buttons, and then they have to implement 10 different power-ups into that as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it. What about you, Spence? Anything else you want to throw in here as a recommendation?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Last season's anime maze, mostly ones we've already talked about. So like, go
Hmm.
watch Apothecary Diaries, season three, season two, first half of season two, which is like this third arc has been great. Fourth arc also looking good.
Yeah, it just
Yeah,
keeps on trucking, doing its
yeah.
thing.
One
Yeah.
100 Girlfriends, that was like the best anime of last season gets my
Bold
vote.
statements. Yeah,
Bold
it's
statement.
Spencer
100 girl.
always his bold statements.
100
Uh,
girlfriends can't beat
there
that.
you go. And on my end, White Lotus also wrapped up.
Ah.
So they're done their third
Was
season.
there some like controversy or something about that?
About the
Probably.
finale specifically?
I don't know. I just feel like I remember seeing a bunch of some things about White Lotus. So,
I mean, I think it got some crazy numbers. I think it got like
okay.
5 million people
Oh,
watched
wow.
one of the episodes. There was a couple of, I mean, understandably, there might have been a controversy. There's a certain event that happens in one of them that I think will
Mm,
go down in infamy.
ah.
And I don't feel great about talking about it, but there's there's an episode that has a questionable event happen between family members.
Oh, okay.
And it's yeah, it's something else. But that's HBO for you. That's the
Yep.
home box office. Knows how to knock it out of the park. Um, but we'll call it there then. Maybe we'll have some more opinions on other animes we're checking out and other things in the next 2 weeks when we have our next podcast, which
Oh,
again will be coming out on April 26th. But then on that episode, on April 26th, of course, we'll also be talking about our next book. So Spence, what do the fine folks at home and I get to look forward to reading next?
okay. So the next one we're going to be doing something we haven't done yet. It's going to be something I haven't read yet either, because we're going to
Oh,
be
what are you
doing
doing?
we're going to be doing Kagurabuchi. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. Kagurabuchi. It's the next big it's like the big super popular Shonen Jump thing. And so I don't know. It's about a guy with like mystical sword doing a Shonen Jump stuff. I don't know how it's gonna
Okay.
be, but I'm interested because I
Ooh.
haven't read it either. So I think it'll be fun for yeah, to get both of our opinions on it.
Okay. Wow. So that's something new we get to do is that we both get to experience one of these things for the first time. All right. That's a
Yeah.
fun mixing it up. So how do I spell this?
That is a good question.
Kagurabuchi? Kagurabuchi.
Kagurabachi.
Oh yeah, that's an A.
Kagurabachi. Kagurabachi.
K K Kagu. Okay. Kagurabachi. Okay, well, I'm sure we'll find out, or maybe people get mad.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. But
Before we'll
uh,
look up how to actually pronounce this before the next
yeah,
podcast.
cool. There you go. This looks like something interesting. All right, Kagurabachi coming down the road. And so I guess I won't ask you anything about the plot or anything because you
It's something about a guy with a sword, like swords are involved somehow.
something about a guy with a sword.
Yeah.
Kagurabachi. There you go. And this is volume one that we'll be
We're
reading.
doing all you want because I think only up to volume 2 has even been released in English at this point.
Wowzers.
I
Okay.
think Japan has a little more. Yeah, so Japan has 6 volumes, but only the first 2 volumes have been released in.
Wow.
Oh, actually, okay, no. I was hoping maybe volume 3 will come out right around when this comes out, but no, it comes out in May.
There you go. I mean, that is pretty close.
I
But
know. Yeah,
May will be here before we know it. And
I
do
know.
you
I'm
have
not doing a great job. Search like if you wanted to search engine optimize this better, I probably should have held off Superman until next month with the Superman.
I'm okay with that optimizing. It's okay.
Yeah,
That's all right. That's not what we're here to do. We're not trying to beat the algorithm. You
yeah,
and I are just trying to chat.
yeah.
And that's what I like as well. And do you have Kagurabachi at your store?
Yes, we do.
There you go. So if you're
Yeah.
interested in joining us and learning about Kagurabachi, this is your chance. You can order Kagurabachi at VesperiaComics.com for pickup at Vesperia Manga and Comics if you're in the lower mainland of beautiful British Columbia. Or you can also order Kagurabachi for Canada-wide shipping. Of course, we also realize that buying a new book every 2 weeks isn't always financially viable for everyone, so consider inviting a friend to split costs or borrowing the book from a friend or local library if it's available. And that's it for episode number 7 of the Long Comics Book Club. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow our Blue Sky and Instagram for updates, as well as join our Discord to share your own thoughts on Superman Red Sun or Kagurabachi in advance of the April 26th podcast. And we will talk to you then. Bye-bye.
See ya.